What is up, everybody? How is everyone doing? Alfredo Torres here with the Sunday Debacle. We're going to be talking about some live music and live albums. So I'm going to give you guys a couple minutes for everybody to kind of log in. Just starting. I know I'm a little bit late today, but I kind of really had no choice. I was up in Northern Virginia, had to drive back. Actually, I'm starting a little earlier than I thought I was going to be. So, of course, nothing is official until the wife logs in and lets me know that she's here. Because that way I know that I'm actually getting out and about to you guys. You guys all know the routine as we do this. Hit the like, unlike, laugh, cry emoji, whatever it is, hit an emoji. Let me know that you are here and that you're watching and that, you know, you're participating, because that's what this is all about. I talk about stuff. Yay. That's wonderful, Alfredo. But you get to participate. You know, it's not just about me. You get to throw in your reactions, what you're thinking about, the songs that you want to or the albums or something, your memories, whatever connects with you about the topic. That's what makes all of this fun and a little bit interactive, or as interactive as it's going to be, because, you know, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I don't. I just talk about stuff, and you guys enjoy it or you don't enjoy it. Luckily, a lot of you guys tend to enjoy it. So the wife is here. Thank you, honey, for letting me know that you're here. Anybody else who's tuning in? Normally, I wait for her because I know by the time that she's up and she's watching this, that it's going through. And that's the important part. You guys are going to filter in as you filter in. You know, once my buddy Joel gets his YouTube channel site up, that you guys could go there. And I know some of you guys are going to be watching it on that. I just left a couple of friends who I'm not connected with on Facebook, but they want that YouTube link so that they can watch it later on and add their comments there. So if you know anybody who might want to watch this but isn't on Facebook, my buddy Joel will be here in a little bit, and he will and he'll put that link up there, so that this way you could pass the link on to them, and they can watch it. And hopefully, while they're watching it, they're hearing the discussion, and they get to add to the discussion on YouTube with my buddy Joel, checking out those comments. So today's topic is going to be live albums. Now, here's what all of this about. The wife and I went to go see Devo last night. Now, I've seen Devo before, and they're an amazing show. Amanda's never seen them. And so we went there and we checked it out, and wow, what an amazing show. They played all the hits. They you could have asked for a more energetic show. If the guy's all in their 70s, God bless him. You know, almost 2 hours. I would have had this on already, but this is my part. Almost 2 hours of straight hits, energy, a great visual show. It was amazing. And I left the Anthem, which is a venue we saw him up in DC. Nice venue, by the way. It's no Norva. Well, actually, it's a little bigger. But it was really, really nice venue. I've seen several shows there. I believe the wife and I saw the B-52s there, and I've seen Wu-Tang there, and a few other shows. It's a great place to see a show. But the energy was just so got me jacked. Had me jacked all night. And to the point where Amanda was like, yeah. And I was just like, okay, I know what I'm talking about tomorrow. She's like, what? So I'm talking about live albums. She says, well, Devo doesn't have a live album. I said, I know, but doesn't matter. They were amazing. And so it made me think of all the amazing shows that I've seen and all of the amazing albums that out there have captured live moments, you know. And you guys see all the stuff in the back. Well, a lot of these bands I've seen, you know, the drum head is Tool, you know, right there. Okay. I seen Peter Murphy from Bauhaus. Seen him at solo and with Bauhaus. I seen Rush, Iron Maiden, right up there. Seen them 3 times. So I've seen, you know, tons of shows, and always a great time. And what I wanted to do was to capture the albums that capture the shows. Now it's funny because when I was growing up, I wasn't a big fan of live albums. You know, I didn't get to go to a lot of shows when I was younger, and so I knew the music as the music. And whenever I would hear live versions, it would kind of throw me off, unless the live version was the first version I heard. Not really understanding that the interpretation of the song, the energy, it deals a lot with the crowds and the energy that they put forward. Hence why bands like the Dead are amazing and play the same song 5,000 times, and there could be 5,000 different interpretations because it's going to come back based on the energy, right? And then you get shows, Iron Maiden, that's just high energy. You get shows like Neil Young, that's very low energy, and everything in between. And the crowd is always going to hype it up or bring it down. Example, we just saw Melissa Etheridge a couple weeks ago, and her music isn't like but you know what? That show was, and it was because the crowd really got into her music and the way she's playing. By the way, she's an incredible guitar player, underrated as all hell. So, but that's a great example, you know. Meanwhile, I've been at shows that I can't think of any at the moment, but where there was a lot of energy, but the crowd just wasn't into it, and it took away. Matter of fact, when I saw Jane's Addiction, Love and Rockets opened up for them. This last tour where Perry Farrell, you know, lost it, and we saw him a couple weeks before that, and it just was a weird vibe. You know, I didn't end up staying. I told, you know, we had a long drive home, and I told the wife, honey, let's get out of here. She's like, okay. Just was weird. And sometimes you'll get that from shows. So what I'm going to do, as you guys start to come in, don't forget to click the like, unlike, I don't care, the reaction button. Hit the reaction button. Let me know that you're stopping by. Let me know that you're here, even if it's only for a short while. Of course, you can always leave a comment. And let's go. So I'm going to start. We're doing live albums, right? And I'm going to start with a pair of live albums from the same artist, right? Matter of fact, the first 2 artists I'm going to talk about 2 live albums from each artist. Let's see, move some stuff around here, right? And the reason is because these albums are career defining in some ways. Okay. Some of the bands here, and you're going to hear me mention them, these albums are what saved them. Matter of fact, let me reverse the order of these first 2 albums. And I'm going to start where's my list here? Here it is. And I'm going to start with the second one I was going to talk about. But I'm going to start with them first. Okay. So this band put out 2 live albums. One in 1975, the second one in 1977. Now, the one in 1975 is significant, okay? It's significant because before that, they had put out 3 studio albums. Didn't get a lot of fanfare. Good albums, but just didn't spark anything. At the same time, the record label they were assigned to was losing money. They were on the verge of shutting down. So in order to save money, time in the recording studio, and in hopes of capturing the vibe of this band, they released this album. The first album that I'm talking about by this band is the 1975 double album, what's up, Ike, called Kiss Alive. This album saved Casablanca Records. They were on the verge of folding, and they released this album. This album captures the magic of a live show by Kiss. All of a sudden, the back catalog starts to blow up. The label is saved. The label would famously go on to become a disco label with a lot of disco acts coming in and helping to respark them. The second one by this came out. Oh, by the way, that album was so significant that it inspired, I can never pronounce his name, Kim Thiel of Soundgarden. I think that's the way. And it also inspired Scott Ian, the other, and Charlie Bentonato or whatever of Anthrax. That album was the album that got those guys to start picking up instruments and become part of the iconic bands that they were part of. Scott, I'm getting ready to get to the second one. And of course, the big one, yo, what's up, Juan? The big one off of that was the live version of Rock and Roll All Night, Party Every Day, became a classic, became an anthem for the young rockers, right? It's a song that still gets played today. So that album blew them up. 2 years later, 2 years and 3 albums later, Kiss comes back with another one, Kiss Alive 2. And this one, amazing. One of the things that they did here was they didn't just take a show. They took bits and pieces of various shows that they did and put it together into what became an incredible album. One of my favorite live albums. I loved it as a big Kiss fan. I also it had that opening, which Scott right here gives it to us, right? Those first 2 songs, Detroit Rock City, Back to King of the Nighttime World. Live versions, the originals coming right off of Destroyer. First 2 songs on that, first 2 songs on the live album, on the Live 2. Wow. Now, people say, hey, Alfredo, it wasn't a full live album because side 4 was all recorded. Yes, it was recorded, but it was recorded while they were doing sound checks. So it was live. They just didn't play to an audience. And there's going to be a couple other things that we'll mention later on where you have that recorded live, but you don't hear the audience participating. So Kiss Alive 2, 1975, 1977, both albums helped to shape rock and roll history because of what they did for the band. Okay? They took a band that was struggling, brought them up there, and made, Kiss Alive helped to make them larger than life. Kiss Alive 2 took them over the top. Just amazing albums. This next artist, and guys, start throwing in some of your no, Scott, wasn't AI. Come on. Though today, who knows? I'm waiting for that live album from a live AI album. and start throwing in some of your favorite albums. We'll see if we're going to talk about them. See if not, but we'll give them a mention at the very least. The next artist also gives us 2 albums, back to back. First album 1968, second album 1969. Ends up being a series of 4 albums that this artist does in this particular vein, but it's these first 2 that really, really help to elevate country music in a way that really I don't know, gave it a little extra outlaw, that outlaw country, but I think the artist is always outlaw, it always seemed outlaw, but the venues are what really took it to the next level. Talk about Johnny Cash, who in 1968 gives us Johnny Cash, Folsom Prison, and then in 1969 turns around and gives us Live from San Quentin. He ended up doing 4 albums from prison, did 2 in the 70s, but these were the 2 that really kind of lit it up. The first one, amazing. Won him 2 Grammys, went triple platinum, revitalized his career. Mike James, what's up, baby? Live After Death, Iron Maiden. What an incredible, incredible album that is. Let me speak on that here right after I finish up talking about Johnny Cash. And the first one, Folsom, Live from Folsom Prison, which he had done the record, Folsom Prison Blues in 1958, I believe. So here it is 10 years later. He's playing in Folsom Prison. He's a man who's changed, right? Had the the outlaw image, but still was able to kind of overcome it, but didn't lose any of his badassery, if that makes sense. So, and the live version of Folsom Prison Blues, played in Folsom Prison, became a hit for him. I believe that's actually, the album is what got him the Grammy for Best Live Album. The second one, of course, from San Quentin. This is famous for 2 things. First of all, it gives us that live version of A Boy Named Sue. Johnny Cash never recorded it. Nobody knew that he was going to play it. Like, he told the band, there's a chance I might do this song today. Be prepared for it. And they're like, okay. Bam, he springs it on them. Of course, the song written by Shel Silverstein ends up becoming this big hit for him. But the other thing that this whole album is known for isn't even a song. It's a picture. And it's a picture that every wannabe young person who wants some credit, thinks it's badass or whatever, has it. It's a picture of Johnny Cash pissed off flipping the bird. I'm sure you've all seen it. Well, it comes from the fact that during this album, it was being recorded, and there was this camera guy who was in the way. And Johnny Cash is like, come on, move around, give me some space. I need this. You're blocking me. And the guy doesn't do anything. He stays in the way. So Johnny Cash gets frustrated and just flips him off. Somebody takes a picture of it. It's on every teaser. It's on every poster of every wannabe young punk who thinks, oh, look, F you to the system. Johnny Cash is a badass. Well, yes, Johnny Cash is a badass. But he's not a badass because he flipped people off. But that image is since, done what it's done. Mike mentioned Live After Death, Iron Maiden. And I love that album. And I'll tell you why I love that album. I love that album because of the last song on that album, which is a live version of Running Free. Now, I've seen Iron Maiden 3 times. I've seen them over the last 10 years. And they haven't played that song. I wish they would. it's one of the songs from the early days. But that is an incredible album, and it's got one of the most incredible, amazing covers. Now, everybody who knows Iron Maiden knows of Eddie. Eddie is their mascot, and it's got him popping up out of the grave. Just an amazing visual, and an amazing album. If you're a metalhead, this has got to be one of the top 10 metal albums of all time. Metal live album. And excuse me, I'm drinking a lot of water because I got this tickle in the back of my throat, and I don't want to start coughing all over the place. So make sure, again, you guys hit the reaction button so that I know that you're here while we keep moving on. Scott also mentions Grand Funk's R&R live album. I'll be honest with you, I don't know that album. Give me a song from it that I might be able to tie it back to. Grand Funk, an incredible band. At one point, I want to say they outsold the Beatles in ticket sales, maybe for a particular venue or in a particular year. There's a bunch of bands in the early 70s. Grand Funk's one of them that were essential in that transition from the 80s, from the 60s rock and roll to 70s rock and roll. Grand Funk was one of them. Probably one of the most important bands. And one day I'll talk more in depth about them. But probably one of the most important bands during that era. And they don't get enough credit. But I got to hear that live album. Thanks for bringing it up, Scott. This next one. Oh, I had this album when I was growing up. Rush, Exit Stage Left. We'll talk about that one here in a little bit, Jeff, because Rush puts on an amazing show, and that album really just captures the energy. Again, make sure that you guys are hitting the reaction button so that I know that you're here, that you stopped by. It takes 2 seconds. Come on, boys and girls. Just click on it real quick. So, we got this artist, incredible artist, in the 50s. The guy ruled the roost. He was amazing. He was so good, people called him the king. Talk about Elvis Presley. His Colonel Parker, probably one of the biggest villains in all of music history. Signs Elvis up on this film deal. Making make a quick buck, take advantage of Elvis's good looks and his star power. First 3 films, Loving You, Jailhouse Rock, and King Creole, actually showcased some of Elvis. Elvis has some acting talent. He really did. And if you see those movies, you'll get to see his acting talent. Of course, later on with Viva Las Vegas and Fun in Acapulco and Paradise Wise, he becomes a joke, and it's sad. Well, in 1968, Elvis records a live album called Elvis, and part of this live album was a performance that he did, which it goes down as being called the NBC, the 1968 Elvis Comeback Special. And any of you guys might have seen clips of it. It's Elvis with Scotty Moore and DJ Fontana, which was that was his original backing band, Scotty Moore on guitar, DJ Montana on the drums, and in this little NBC studio, they played together. Elvis dressed in all black, looking badass, looking every bit the king of rock and roll. The rebel that he was. This isn't Kissing Cousins Elvis or GI Blues Elvis. This is Elvis, the king of rock and roll Elvis. And it was that special that gave Elvis a second career. Now, the funny thing about Elvis is up until that point in time, Elvis never had a live album out. That album was able to showcase Elvis in a way, and of course it was the badass comeback special Elvis. The album had some the album had some songs in it where it's recorded with an orchestra, and it showcases Elvis in a whole new light. It's the Elvis that would eventually become Vegas Elvis. Eventually. Right? Because Elvis had to swing back from being a goofy singing guy in movies that really destroyed his legacy to showing everybody that not only did he still have it, but he had matured. Right? He was able to sing more serious songs. Elvis ends up putting out 8 live albums in 7 years. And of course, these albums all featured this new version of Elvis, right? It featured, Elvis in Memphis, Elvis Aloha, via satellite from Hawaii, from Hawaii, which actually ended up being a number 1 album for Elvis. Elvis Live from Madison Square Garden. And here we start to see what would end up becoming Elvis from Vegas. Elvis with the secret jackets and the that kind of stuff. And the music that he would put out later on, in the 70s, leading up to when he passed away. But the Elvis 68 comeback special blew everybody away. Had Elvis show everybody, you know what, he still had it. He was still a rebel. He was still the king of rock and roll. And that album, again, is just simply called Elvis. It's Elvis on a stage. It's a red cover with the word Elvis lit up behind him. With the word Elvis lit up behind him. Gave us 2 songs, 2 singles that were released from that album. One of them, it's got a pretty unique story. So I don't know if those of you who know who Mac Davis is. Mac Davis wrote a lot of songs for Elvis. A lot of his songs later on in his life, what I call the thoughtful Elvis. So he was tasked, along with another guy by the name of Billy Strange, to write a song for Elvis before the comeback special. Literally, the night before, they said, we need a song for Elvis. It needs to be something a little more mature, something reflective. And it ended up, the song is called Memories. And those of you who don't know that song, look it up, because it's a beautiful song. And it's been called the hallmark of Elvis's later career. So if songs like Jailhouse Rock, we'll take that one, right? Was the hallmark of young Elvis, 50s Elvis, the snarling Elvis. Memories would be the hallmark of Elvis later on, the mature Elvis, the Elvis. Kind of, it's, if you don't look at Elvis being bloated with the rhinestone suits, but you look at the songs that he put out, they were thoughtful, they were introspective. Songs like In the Ghetto, also written by Mac Davis. Songs like that really, really showcased My Way, Elvis's version of My Way, Elvis's version of Always on My Mind, Willie Nelson classic. This would be the Elvis of later on, right? His second career, his rebirth after that 68 comeback special. But listen to that If you get a chance, see it because it is such a different Elvis from what people were used to. What's up, Robert? How's it going, brother? Ike saying Motorhead, always good time. They have a few live albums. Yeah, Lemmy's Lemmy. What are you going to say about him? Bands like Motorhead, there's no pretenses. You know what they are. You 100% know what they are. And their live shows came out with that. If I told you Motorhead, you get a vision in your head. That was them live. Balls to the wall. Jeff Pierce, who put out Rush, Exit Stage Left. If you are a fan of Rush, especially during that pivotal late 70s, early 80s time, that album captures it perfectly. One of the most innovative bands, a band that really transcends what a lot of people thought they were based on the first few albums. So yeah, I'm gonna give that one some props too. Let me take care of this. Okay, guys, make sure again. I gotta keep saying it. Hit the reaction buttons because I gotta see that you guys are here. You're posting it. That you're just saying hi. That's all I want to know, that you're here. This next album, another, and you'll see a lot of the same kind of story, right? Great band. They put out a few albums. Nobody gives a crap. Then they put out this amazing live album that captures their energy. And blows up. This next band has been credited. This album I'm about to talk came out in 1978. It's been credited for saving rock and roll. Now, I want you to think about 1978, right? Yeah, you had punk. Yeah, you had new wave kind of sneaking in. You had the second wave of British heavy metal. Kind of all of this is under the surface. But the two things that ruled the airwaves, two, disco and soft rock. Those were the things that's it. That's what you heard. Okay? Let me give you some of the facts about this album. Being credited with that, right? Let's see. The album reached number 4, certified 3 times platinum, right? Again, it says it provided the blueprint for rock and roll, for what a rock and roll show was, for what a rock and roll band sounds like, and helped to save. Again, these are people other than me saying this. Okay, I'm just reading here. Helped to save rock and roll. No, it's not Steely Dan. I've seen Steely Dan a few times, and I love that. I love their music. No, this album was so important. It was included in the National Recording Registry by the Library and in the Library of Congress. That's how important this album was. And they're the ones, by the way, who say that it saved rock and roll. I'm talking about Cheap Trick Live at Boudica. Now, that album, gave us I Want You to Want Me, gave us Surrender. The album was an amazing piece of vinyl, of wax, as we called it back in the day. But it really gave people that energy. It gave them that energy back. Gave people that, it didn't have to all be soft rock. It didn't have to be, believe it or not, I'm walking on air. It didn't have to be all that. It could be some rock and roll, some guitar. So we've got we've got Cheap Trick to thank for giving us the shot we needed. This next album, and Mike, what are you laughing about? Cheap Trick? You obviously were not around in the late 70s and realized how much the world needed that album, those songs, and that energy. This next album, you know what? I'm going to tell you this. It's a live version of a song that's a classic by this group, especially the lead singer of this group. The album comes out in 1975, and it's Bob Marley and the Wailers live. The song that they released as a single and just does it for everybody because of the honesty that you hear in his voice. You hear the message in his voice is "No Woman, No Cry." Oh, you were laughing at I was laughing at my reaction to Steely Dan. Steely Dan is a great band if you like their music and to watch live, but I don't see a Steely Dan live album that saves rock and roll. 77, 78, you're talking what are you talking about Steely Dan? Asia, Peg, great songs. Do It Again. Nothing that a live version is really gonna move you. But now, Bob Marley's version of "No Woman, No Cry," you hear that, you hear his the words to the song, and you hear the crowd reacting, and that's a wonderful, wonderful example of how a song can get a group of people moved. Listen to the recorded version, the studio recorded version, great song, and then listen to that version off of live. Listen to that version off of live and hear the difference. Close your eyes and listen to it and hear the voice, hear the instrumentation, hear the audience reacting. That's what does it. That right there, you can't. It's hard to describe it, but it's so easy to hear it. And when an album is recorded right to capture the audience reaction, the audience singing, it's not only the audience singing the words, and you can hear the ache in the audience just like you can hear the ache in the singer. That's what that song does. And Bob Marley and the Wailers live 1975. It's a great example of getting that. Let me give you let's see, you guys. I'm waiting. The next one, I was waiting to see if somebody was gonna mention it before I started to. I can't believe nobody has. I'm gonna see if somebody if I'm gonna give you some of the amazing things about this album. Remember, this is a live album. Of course, I'll give you the year first, 1976. This is an album captured this artist, right? Artist had a memorable turn as a member of a band, went solo, Put out a couple albums. Yeah. Great. It's beautiful. Releases this album. Double album set, by the way. Right? This album, 8 million units sold. Number one for 10 weeks in 1976. Right? Number one for the year, 1976. The album was so popular, it ended up being the number 14 album in 1977 for the year. That's how big this album was. The album's been inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. The album released, no, it's not Styx. The album released 3 singles. All 3 singles were top 15 singles that year. Any idea? I guess Styx. I want to see. See if you guys are listening. If you're paying attention, who do you guys think? Who do you guys think that could be, who could have released this album? I guess I'm gonna have to, show you guys the way. There's a clue. I want you, show me the way every day. I want Peter Frampton, the king of the talk box. No, it's not The Wall. The Wall wasn't a live album. Come on. And The Wall was in a band. So I am going to mention that band here in a little bit. Peter Frampton. Frampton Comes Alive. That version, Humble Pie. That's right, Mike. Peter Frampton was the guitarist for Humble Pie. They put out a live album, actually, pretty good. Their biggest hit was a song called 30 Days in the Hole. Love it. Love that song. And Frampton goes solo. Couple things. Yeah. Comes out with Frampton Comes Alive, and all of a sudden, poof. It blows up. Bigger than anybody could have imagined. Like I said, the album's inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. It's the number one album of 1976. So popular, sells so many records that it's still in 1977 in the top 20 albums for the year. Just an amazing, amazing album. And the 17-minute version of, no, not 17 minutes, excuse me, the 7-minute version of Do We Feel Like I Do ends up becoming the longest single ever up to that point at 7 minutes and 19 seconds. And I believe that was the single version. I believe the album version ends up being like 14 minutes or something. But, that Frampton album. God, I love it. Let's see. I want you guys to throw in some of your favorites. I'm going to, since Ike mentioned The Wall, I'm going to give you a Pink Floyd live album. 4-disc set. Came out in 1994. Unfortunately, it didn't have Roger Waters because he had left the band by that time. But this album, CD set, was amazing. Pulse. I remember the box set had a little light that would just flash. And it flashed for years before the box set I had finally died. But one of the great things about this album is this live event extravaganza. This live I can't even describe it. If you see, you can buy videos of the album, and the visuals are amazing. There's a reason why in the 80s, Laser Floyd was a big deal in the laser light shows and in the planetariums and all that stuff. Is because their music goes so well with a light show. But the whole thing with the Pulse, one of the things that it gave us was it gave us the Dark Side of the Moon live. They performed it in the middle of the concert, the whole album. And now, to me, the epitome of that, the thing that just is emotional for me is the song Great Gig in the Sky. It's got the two ladies with the doing that, with this emotional music playing behind them. And now I've seen that song performed twice at Roger Waters concerts, and it's moving. If you haven't had a chance to hear Great Gig in the Sky live, look it up. It's just an incredible piece of music that live moves you even more. But you've got that. They also did a live version of Wish You Were Here, which gets some radio play, becomes they release it as a single. Wish You Were Here, which of course dedicated to song dedicated to Syd Barrett, the mad genius of Pink Floyd, who dropped too much LSD and checked out. But without Syd Barrett checking out, we don't get David Gilmour, who you could say what you want, whether you're a Roger Waters guy or not. David Gilmour is what elevated Pink Floyd to the next level. Took him out of the psychedelic scene, brought him into arena rock music, albums that were so majestic they couldn't be confined to just a club. They needed the production. And in Pink Floyd's Pulse, you get to hear that production on such a huge level. So, you guys got any live albums you want to talk about? Throw them up in the chat. Of course, make sure you hit the reaction button. I'm going to switch it up here a little bit. Reason I'm late is because I was at dinner with a good friend of mine. And we were talking, and he's a big jazz and fusion guy. And so he's mentioning these artists, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't know if anybody's going to know them or if anybody's going to really understand or be able to pick up any of their stuff. I might have even heard it. And then I remember a live album came out in 1973, and it was two artists who were playing together. One known in the rock world, but who's definitely blues and jazz influence, and the other one known in the jazz world, right? And I'm talking about a live album that came out with Santana and Buddy Miles. And the big song that came out of that live album got radio play. I remember this song. This is one of the first songs going back to my early childhood memory, right? 1973, I'm 7 years old. 1973 was a big traumatic year for me, by the way. 6, 7, 8, 9, 7, 7 years old, going on 8. And I remember this song getting played all the time. It's called Them Changes. and the horns in that song. Well, my mind is going through them changes. And if you get a chance, dig that one up, because that really is such an amazing piece of music. Something that'll help you expand your horizons a little bit. Okay. Now, I don't have a. I guess I'm gonna go. Where do you go with this band that every show is a live album? Every show is a live album, right? Because the band allowed bootlegging of their shows, right? So of course I'm talking about Grateful Dead. They had a bunch of them. So where do I go to give you the non-Dead fan, person who doesn't understand the significance of the Dead live? Boston, did Boston even have? All right, come on, you're just throwing bands out there to throw bands. Did Boston have a live album? Come on, I'm talking about the Dead here, the king of the live albums. And you're throwing Boston, great band by the way. I'm not selling them short, but I'm saying, come on, help me out here. You're throwing out albums. You're throwing out groups that don't have live albums. Come on, work with me. But the Dead, I got to go with Europe 72, right? An amazing album that captures the Dead. You could kind of say, I don't know if you say in their peak. It's hard to say when the Dead were at their peak. You know, the Dead starting in the late 60s, of course. Summer Love. They had by Europe 73, I believe. Pigpen was dead. It was replaced already. Pigpen being their founding guitarist, their founding keyboardist. The Dead, by the way, went through keyboard players like Spinal Tap goes to drummers. So who knows? But Europe 72 is a great album for you to listen to the Dead. But if you want to talk about albums, live albums, where you get to capture bands, magical moments of bands, let's talk about the live album that captured a movement, right? I don't think any of us here were, if we were old enough to have been alive when this happened, were at Woodstock, 1969. Well, if you've seen the movie, you get to if you see the movie, you get to kind of experience what it could have been like to have been there. But to hear the music, to hear the bands that performed there, and to hear songs that not only became iconic with a show or iconic with a band, but iconic of a movement. That album, Woodstock, the original motion picture soundtrack to Woodstock, Jimmy's Star Spangled Banner, Joe Cocker's With a Little Help from My Friends live version, Country Joe and the Fish. I forget what was it called? The Rag. 1, 2, 3. What are we fighting for? Don't ask me, I don't give a damn. Next stop is Vietnam. And it's 5, 6, 7. Open up the pearly gates. Well, ain't got time to wonder why. Whoopee, we're all gonna die. I can't remember what it's called, but it's the something rag. Country Joe and I mean, just the album, 2 album set, amazing album that came out, and again, it didn't only capture an event. It didn't only capture these bands, um, and songs that they were playing. It captured a movement, and that's what makes that album so special when it comes to um, live albums, and especially nowadays where we got plenty of events that happen every year. You got Coachella and you got Bonnaroo and what's the one in Chicago? Lollapalooza and M3 just happened. You got plenty of festivals, but none of them mean anything. For lack of a better word, none of them mean anything. They're just groups of bands getting together to play. Play for a weekend. You go, you pay for overpriced beer, overpriced merch, and you get in there with 100,000 people. But Woodstock was a movement. It defined an era. There is no festival you could go to today that defines an era. Except just a bunch of bands. Let's see. Got a few minutes here. Ike's got 5 albums. He wants everybody to know 5 live albums. So, all right, Ike, name them. List the 5 live albums that you got. See if I know any of them. The rest of you guys, throw on some live albums here. Let me hear what you got. As we're getting ready to wrap this up, don't forget to hit the reaction button. I'm trying to come up with a couple of other ones. Beatles live at the Hollywood Bowl captures the Beatles before they stopped touring. Obviously, a lot of their early hits, none of the later stuff that so dominates the airwaves these days. The Sergeant Pepper and the Abbey Road and that stuff. It was all early stuff, and to me it's amazing. I prefer the we'll talk about that in a second, honey. I prefer the early Beatles, 64 to 66, 63 to 66. Those are my Beatles. The other stuff, even though that's what everybody else likes. Amanda didn't just come up with a band. She came up with a show and a series of Boston Heaven 5. The series, which in itself is iconic, the MTV Unplugged series. And this series has given us some amazing albums where the bands have been stripped down. And you get to hear the talent in the band, She mentioned just a couple of them. Nirvana and Eric Clapton's Unplugged albums. But there's other ones. Alice in Chains, MTV Unplugged Alice in Chains, MTV Unplugged Kiss, MTV. One of the early ones was MTV. Oh God, why is it escaping me? I'm sorry, I can't think of it, but it was one of their early ones. Just amazing. They even put out the hip hop album where it was live and unplugged. And it had LL Cool J was one of the hip hop artists on there who was playing behind a live band. That whole series, MTV Unplugged series, fascinating. MTV Unplugged with Korn, was another one that really caught me off guard. So if you get a chance, want to hear stripped down versions of some of your favorite artists in front of an audience because they're live, the MTV Unplugged series. Go check them out. VH1 had one called Storytellers. Again, I like that because you got to hear the artist tell. Excuse me, got to hear the artist tell the story of the album, of the song that they played. One of the albums which really affected me is album I have. Matter of fact, let me hold on. It's that album right there. That's Joe Jackson's Big World. Now, the interesting thing about this album is Joe Jackson recorded this album live, but asked the audience to not make a sound. He wanted to capture the unique acoustics and the vibe of a live album, but not have distracting from the claps and the hoops and the hollers. That album, with the title track "Big World," it's got another song called "40 Years," which to me is just just an incredible song. That album, my buddy Tom Nightingale, who back in college liked to hear avant-garde stuff. If it was popular, he didn't care about it. But he liked to dig deep. Cutting edge in some places. Like the first time I ever heard of God, I hate when I draw blanks. They did a remake of Pictures of Matchstick Men. Honey, I have the poster hanging up in the laundry room. If you could just pop in there and just type, look at the names. But he turned me on to that. He turned me on to another band called Boom Crash Opera. Just some amazing bands. So of course I had known Joe Jackson before, but the concept behind this album I didn't know about. He had turned me on to this. So if you get a chance, look up the album Big World. Any song, go on Spotify or go on YouTube and just look up, soundtracks that are cut from it. And it's an amazing album. Of course, the Eagles live album. I can't think of the name of it, but the one that gives us that live version of Hotel California. That might have been the Eagles Unplugged. Who the hell knows at that point, because everybody was putting out Unplugged albums. But that's another great live album. So I'm getting ready to wrap it up here. As always, I thank you guys for stopping in. Before you guys take off, make sure that you hit that that reaction button so that I know that you stopped by. I know you hung out with me for a little bit. I appreciate it. I appreciate those of you who threw in some good suggestions. Ike, Boston. Save that for debut albums. Whenever I talk about that, we'll come back to Boston. But in the meantime, thank you guys for hanging out with me. I'll be back next Sunday with a new topic. Who knows what? If you guys think of any topics that you want me to address, feel free. Yes, Campervan Beethoven. That's the band. Thank you, honey. That's exactly who it is. Campervan Beethoven did an amazing version of Pictures of Matchstick Men. Song that was originally done by Status Quo. And Ozzy did a version of it too. By the way, great album. Ozzy with Randy Rhoads. I think it's tribute. Great album. Speaking of the devil, great album. Black Sabbath, Live Evil, with Ronnie James Dio singing. Deep Purple live. Now they're all just spewing out, right? Judas Priest, Beast of the East. Even the Bee Gees put out a live album. Of course, the name of it's escaping me, but a lot of great live albums out there. If you guys know any, again, throw them in the comments. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me again. I'll be back at my regular time, 6:45-ish, thereabouts. Talk about, next. Oh, wait a minute. Honey, I won't be back. I won't be back next Sunday. I'll be in Vegas. I might do like a live broadcast from my phone or something, depending. We're supposed to see. I don't know, because while we're in Vegas, we're gonna go see Dead and Company live at the Sphere. It's gonna be great. But we're taking in some shows in Vegas. I mean, we're in Vegas, but why not? You know who we're gonna see? Speaking of the Bee Gees, the Australian Bee Gees. They do a tribute show. We might catch another one. Obviously, the Elvis tribute shows are out there. There's a Frankie Avalon one. Frankie Valli one. There's a Frank Sinatra one. There's one for Motown. We might see the Motown one. I don't know. We got tickets to go see Australian Bee Gees, which is kind of ironic because the Bee Gees are from Australia. I don't get it. Anyway, I look forward to giving you a live report from over there. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Until then, take care. God bless. And don't forget, to my children, Daddy loves you guys. Have a great week. Later, dudes. Bye.